What is going on? It's Halsey with the Helicopter Podcast, and I am excited for today's episode. I say it all the time, but I truly am always excited for my episodes. Today with Nick Sinopoli. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Oh, God. I'm so nervous. With my last name, Schider, and actually first name, Halsey, I'm just used to people always somehow butchering my name. In fact, the other day, I'm part of this ski patrol. I've talked about it on the show before. And I'm finally off of probation, which means that when I'm calling over the radio, I actually get to use my last name now, Schider, not so-and-so plus candidate. And I'm looking at this guy sitting next to me in the morning meeting, and his last name was Snyder. And I said, oh, that's what everyone always either calls me, Snyder or Schneider. And sure enough, the ski patrol boss gets up and starts reading the assignments today. And he's like, Schneider, sunrise setup. And I looked at the guy. I'm like, see, told you. Like, people are just always screwing it up. So I'm glad I got it good. First and foremost, thank you to Vertical Helicast for making the podcast possible. If you're unfamiliar with Vertical Helicast, check it out. It's the Helicopter Podcast, The Real Rescue with Jason Quinn, and Hangar Z with John Gray, and soon to be the Vertical MRO with our boy Val. So we're very excited about the Helicast. And I'm so excited. Nick, we ran into each other at Expo, right? That's how this all happened?
Yeah.
First and foremost, dig in the shirt, man. Where are you right now? Are you in Hawaii?
So it is Hawaiian Shirt Fridays in the office here in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, I forget you're in San Antonio. Can you stand up for a second? There's helicopters on there. He's like, I'm not wearing any pants, so...
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
I'm wearing shorts. We got a variety of them. You know, I actually got the idea. I was up at the Helicopter Institute this summer, and we were doing some dust landing training with the device, some proof of concept, making some videos and stuff like that, and was chatting with some of the guys, and they were like, "Yeah, tomorrow's Hawaiian Shirt Day," and I love buying the swag. That is my favorite thing to do. Is to pick out cool ways to do your branding, as trying to get the name out there. And I went on Amazon, and you can just put 3 JPEGs in, and they'll pop you out a shirt. So I got the Helicopter Institute Boys one, and then I was like, well, I gotta get one for myself just to test it out. I
think I think I should get one. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
What I've got gifts recently. The Hog Helicopter Online Ground School. To fly another day. You got that too?
Yeah. Kenny stopped by the booth at Heli Expo.
Yeah, that's funny. And then actually, I got to put them up. I have 2 books from a guest I just had on, Darcy Hoover. He has a couple helicopter books, and I think I'm gonna get like a little bookshelf behind me here and put those here. So I'm just saying. I mean, I could rock, some Icarus Hawaiian garb. I love it. What part of San Antonio are you in?
We're in Monte Vista, so right off 281, which is nice because I'm from outside of Austin. I'm from Spicewood, Texas. So
cool.
To get to my mom's house, I just pop on the highway, an hour and a half, and I'm there.
So easy.
Yeah.
I love San Antonio. Yeah, I own a house in San Antonio still, actually, but we don't live there anymore. But yeah, love the area. Great hill country and. So much fun. I'm disappointed to hear that we didn't know each other while I was there for 10 years, unfortunately.
We just moved down here in July. Not the best time to move back to Texas. It's a
horrible time. Horrible time.
Great.
Well, Nick, I'm so interested. Obviously, being in the helicopter world, I'm very familiar to a point of the Icarus device. It came on the scene. It seems like it's been a few years now that it's kind of hit the
3
scene.
years this month.
3 years this month. I'm 4 years this month with my business. So we're like We're on the same anniversary. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I remember when it came out thinking like, oh, damn it. Why didn't I think of that? Like, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And, it's really cool. But beyond just the basics of it, I don't know much about it. I can first and foremost say that my experience for helicopter specific instrument training, simulated instrument with foggles or a hood, I always pretty much thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
And in fact, what I ended up doing, and I've talked about it on the show before, is actually going and scheduling all my instrument training at nighttime. So
Yeah.
at least I would have like the hood or the foggles plus dark below
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
that kind of helped add some realism to the situation. Uh, but it seems like the Icarus is like multi-function, like it can change how much you can see, how much you can't see. So first and foremost, what's your background? What what were you doing before Icarus? How did this idea come about? Let's just start there.
Okay. Yeah. So grew up in Austin. Was always kind of a tinkerer as a kid. I was that kid like that just wanted to be in aviation. I always wanted to be a pilot. Always knew that. Ended up going to school in Indiana at Purdue, which is actually where my dad went to school, and struggled through that program, aeronautical engineering, for 4.5 years.
Hey,
Um,
did you graduate?
I
Yeah.
graduated.
Hey, victory.
They gave me the piece of paper, and I was like, on my way out. My friends from school work for NASA and SpaceX. I'm kind of the dunce, but C's get degrees. And
C's
anyway,
get degrees. It's true.
yeah. So I kind of always grew up with that. Like, my father was very good about kind of instilling that. Sometimes when 10-year-olds try and make something, it's a dumb idea or it's never going to work. But fostering that spirit of, hey, you can go out there and make the world a better place was definitely that engineering mind that I kind of grew up around my father. And then so I was ROTC at Purdue, ended up commissioning and going into helicopter pilot training, and had my not my first run in with the hood. I had a private pilot's license before I did it, the military, but definitely had a bad experience with a piece of paper. And that will be 10 years ago in September. And I have a real long sob story. I've actually covered it in some other places. Had a kind of a quarter life crisis when I was 25. I failed my instrument check ride, and it was the end of the budget year. And there's a whole long story behind that. And kind of found myself, ended up getting out of the leaving the active duty military, and then sold my car, got a patent, and just started making Icarus devices. And here I am 10 years later, with things finally starting to get them out there, and like getting a couple shipped out today. So it's
That's
been
awesome.
it's been a journey.
It
I'm
always
sure
is.
starting something, there's just some stuff that you just got to learn by doing. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's like smart people that will, get the right degree or understand the right thing and work for a big company and make lots of money. And then there's just dumb people that want to be entrepreneurs, and
Yeah.
that's where I feel. I have an executive coach, and he's a pretty successful dude, but he's pretty funny. We were talking the other day, and it's just like, God, entrepreneurialism sucks sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, it does. Because he's actually kind of he made a ton, and then he now buys businesses and kind of
Yeah.
rehabs and flips, and he's more on the operations side, I think, that he's been used to in a long time. And so I think he's kind of getting his reacclimation into it. But what was the light bulb moment? I mean, when did you even have this idea that you could make a better mousetrap?
So had an incident with the paper hood that we used. We almost hit a bird.
Okay.
I had just taken off. I was under the hood. We did an instrument takeoff in ITO, coming right back around in the pattern, getting vectored around to do, I think it was an ILS or PAR, precision ground controlled approach. And it is not a fun experience having the controls swiped out of your hand. No time to say my controls, no time. They didn't even know, I couldn't see it because I was under the hood, but we didn't even know whether we almost hit a bird or a plane for a second there. Not a fun experience. Came back around, we landed, and I'm walking away from the aircraft. And this is funny how long ago this was. Boeing was in the news 10 years ago, and it was not for bad things. It was for the 787 Dreamliner had just come out.
Okay.
And the 787 Dreamliner, tons of great improvements, but as consumers of airlines, people just really want to understand, like, what's it like in back. And a typical window shade in a commercial airliner, it's on a little track. Sometimes it gets stuck. They don't have that. It's an electrochromatic dial. So basically, it's it's kind of the underlying technology from LCDs. You see them in buildings, like in boardrooms or something like that. You hit a switch and it goes clear and it goes opaque. In Japan, they're really into it for bathrooms to show they're clean for some reason. I was vaguely familiar with it because of what my dad did, building systems. And anyways, I'm walking away. And I've got this stupid piece of paper, and man, I really wish I could have gotten that thing off my head when we just to have essay of like what just happened. Why did you just take controls? Why were there expletives? What's going on? Everyone wants a warm, you want that warm fuzzy of being able to see outside. And I was like, if Boeing can figure out how to make it, take this technology and put it in every single window in the back of an airliner and make it cost effective, weight effective, electricity effective, what are we doing here with these hoods, these pieces of crap? They're like horse blinders, when people up until we came on the scene, that's what you had to use. And
every time I watch Handmaid's Tale, I kind of feel like the hood looks like with what those weird people are wearing.
It's funny. We adopted a puppy in October, and the first thing the puppy has to get is get spayed and neutered. And we went through a great rescue organization, so they took care of a lot of that stuff. But like when I first went and picked her up, she had the cone of shame on. That's kind of how they've been seen, kind of the cone of shame or training wheels or. Hey, my instructor's cool. He doesn't make me use the hood or the foggles. And what it creates is this huge training gap. Sometimes I'll put up a picture of, their simulated, the columns in the logbook of simulated instruments and actual instruments. And all I'm just trying to do is close that gap. I had a bad run-in with the hood I won't belabor you with the whole story. I had a bad run-in with the hood on my final check ride in that chapter of my military career, and just was you know what, if I'm going to go do something, I was 25 at the time, didn't know any better. I think everybody has that thing, somebody's going to come here and pay me $1 million and I'll just, sit back on the beach somewhere wearing a Hawaiian shirt. And that's obviously not how it goes, but
nope. There's 3 ways to do it, right? You can inherit money, you can win the lottery, or you can work really hard. and those are, I guess you could. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are the 3 ways. So I think that's really neat, Nick. It's always fascinating to hear. I've kind of an inventive mind, and I've toiled with some products. In fact, offline, I want to tell you one. Maybe you can help me. But okay. I've never done anything with it. But I think there's I don't know if it's kind of all entrepreneurs, but maybe it's just kind of ingrained. Like there's always an innovative, looking for a better solution. Yeah, and that's really, isn't that like what an invention typically is? It's just a better solution to what we currently have. Mm-hmm. And it's always so obvious, right? And it's neat how it's you start thinking about it of, if Boeing can do it, then why can't I do it and create it for this view limiting device? So what did the early years and days look like for Icarus? What was that prototype like? Do you still have the prototype? Just kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, I can go grab it. It's sitting on the shelf, or one of them. One of the actually one of the later ones. They kind of got out of the active duty and spent about 10 months on the IRR, the individual rider reserve, and had saved up a bit. I kind of had some chance to like slightly game it out, and went and signed the check to the patent attorney. Patents are important, intellectual property is important, but it's you can have patents are their own thing, and that's a question I get asked a lot by people like you who are trying to invent something. I was lucky enough to do a really cool accelerator program called Aero Innovate in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And so I went up there, and so I grew up in Texas, but my parents met in Madison, Wisconsin. And I spent my summers as a kid. We'd go up to Madison and spend a week or two because, it gets very hot in Austin in the summer months. So went up there. I was 25. Madison's a great town, and did this really cool program that, was really about kind of giving people a platform, an aviation platform. It was a booth and a little bit of coaching, and you got to pitch and stuff like that. And for me at that point, what it really got me to do was sit there and just talk to people. And that's a big part of what I do now is, sitting at a Heli Expo, people walking up and, hey, this is the Icarus device. What does it do? How much does it cost? All that stuff. And learning those kind of customer skills that, you just kind of have to do.
Customer skills that some engineers are not the best in. You seem very unlike that, though. You have a spunk. I mean, your outfit says it all. You're maybe an uncommon engineer.
Yeah, and I think life's too short to kind of be boring. And I love nerding out. And if you look at what the original kind of stuff I was putting out there, I was very neat, in the weeds on the specific technology, or trying to get a little bit too fancy with stuff. We're bombarded by information, and people really, give people a general overview. If you're a pilot, you'll understand it pretty quickly on what we're trying to do here. And then I want to talk, and I want to see what you're, I get, hey, I had been using the foggles at night because everything else sucks. Or with helicopter pilots, we're talking a lot about not necessarily just IFR, about inadvertent IMC. So kind of developing in that. And at that point, I was maybe a 300-hour pilot. I had some experience, but was not, out there, a 10,000-hour person that's been there, done that. So I took and this is an approach that, like, I'm still there, and I'll be there for the rest of my life. Learn. Always can learn from other people. And, from what had happened to me, put the ego to, in the grave. Let's go out there and learn. And that's how I got Icarus to this point. It's not necessarily like, I love tinkering, I love innovating, but 90% of the innovations, especially over the last 3 years, have not come from my idea. It's working with great pilots in law enforcement, air ambulance, military, and being like, hey, can I get this? Can I get that? It would really be helpful. And from a product design standpoint, it's super crucial that you learn from people. So like kind of putting that ego to rest and going out there. So I set off, and I admit, like, if you look at that original Kickstarter video, I've tried to get it all the way off the internet. So please don't go Googling it.
I'm going to find it.
But I will.
Link in the description.
Yeah, it's close. So there's no money coming into me. It's just, yeah. But you got to just kind of, life's too short.
What was wrong with that video? I don't know if I ever saw it.
I was just, I thought, oh man, this is going to be super easy to get. I think I was looking for $10,000, and I ended up hitting the goal. And the device was in beta. I had prototypes, and I had working prototypes, and some that you could even kind of fly with. It was not anything near what it is today. It wasn't particularly low budget. Like the cameras were nice, but it was, hey, my buddy's uncle has a plane in a hangar, and
Hey, but look, you got to be resourceful, right? Like money, cash is king, especially when you're
oh
building
yeah.
something. So I don't knock you for that, Nick. I want to talk more about it, but real fast, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
All right, I'm hanging out with Nick from Icarus. Icarus. Where is the name? What's the name? Where did you come up with that? It's I like it.
So I'll never forget my my patent attorney, who I was very lucky to get a good one, who would sit there and, we would just have coffee and he would just tell me about life. He was, kind of in the twilight of his career and wasn't looking to charge me $300 an hour.
He would. I've had an attorney tell me the twilight of his life too, and then I get a bill for billables on it.
Yeah. Yeah. But he was very clear. He was like, you got to get a good name. You can screw stuff up and change it, but it's real hard to like try and rebrand. And so I went to, I had plenty of time. I actually have my, I've had this clipboard since college, and put engineering paper down and just started, putting stuff, and obviously instrument conditions, IMC was a big one. There's not a lot of words that are IMC, but there's some good words like Icarus that are IC. So it was Instrument Conditions Awareness Recognition and Understanding System, Icarus. Which I remember that first summer when I was pitching it, people were like, you really need to slow down when you start saying that acronym. Because I was in flight school mode where, we have all these mnemonics,
of course,
tomato flames, and you're just trying to get it out so that the person across the table from you knows that you know it. But yeah, so that's kind of the name. I remember I bombed a pitch and somebody had come up to me and be like, Icarus crashed, right? And I was like, yeah, man, I named my company after it. Or, and I'm not the only, in the 3,000 years, like I'm not the only person out here that's named their business Icarus. But yeah, so, something catchy and it was just something that you'd remember.
I mean, I definitely think it's catchy. I didn't know that it was an acronym. Is that an acronym? Is that I'm pretty smart. I didn't realize that. But I feel like I remember hearing the name once, and then I probably heard about it like months later, and I knew what it was. Like it's like an aggressively, like a name that's hard to forget, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. My business is Celicopter, and I didn't come up with it. I had some marketing help and whatnot, but I do agree. I think a name is important. And sometimes I feel like Celicopter is like a little cheesy, really. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, hey, it's memorable.
Yeah.
What do? Well, we sell helicopters, dummy. Celicopter. Yeah. So it's like it's just one of those things. And as the brand has grown, I think that the name for us specifically has been a bit of a point of like, we can't take you seriously because, everyone else is like, fancy names and elegant, and then it's Celicopter. And I think over time, your hard work pays off, and it's kind of less about the name and more about just the people behind the name of the business. The brand. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And kind of what we stand for. So I feel like Icarus, the Icarus device is heavily pushed into the helicopter space, but I'm guessing that this is also very much pushed in the airplane space too. I'm just not part of that space.
Yeah. And, so the kind of the go-to-market strategy, when we went on sale was the civilian helicopter industry as a piece of the wider aviation industry is a decent sized chunk of the pie, but the barriers to entry are low in the civilian side. The only thing the FAA says about a view limiting device is you must have a safety pilot. That's it. the industry, obviously, it's an acute need for VFR and IMC, invert IMC, UIMC, whatever you're calling it, training. Um, it's a mission oriented. Uh, um, you have a lot of mission oriented operators in the sense of like when you're dealing with somebody that's flying a very expensive EC 145 off a helicopter pad on a hospital, trying to go get somebody that just had a heart attack 90 miles away and save their life. They're willing to spend the money to get better training because it's
Of course.
it's a high risk, high reward endeavor. So that was kind of our strategy, was going after the civilian helicopter market and then branching into the wider GA market, which we've always sold a product for the GA market. And then in the fall of 2022, we combined the product line into one. We used to sell a visor that was just for GA. The helicopter visor was better because I'm a helicopter guy at heart. I like helicopters. I put more effort into it. Just kidding. But anyway, so now you can do one, and that works a lot for. We have a lot of like law enforcement customers where they're like, we have 3 407s and a Cessna 206 Caravan or something like that. They can use one device in both. But and then the military, which the speed of government is very slow. So it took several years to get like necessary approvals to sell to the Army, which is now our largest customer.
So that's really neat. I guess I kind of heard rumblings that you guys were. In fact, I was at the Robinson helicopter safety course recently, and the Icarus device. Someone was talking about it, and someone said that it was now being sold to the U.S. Army. So that's a thing, huh? That's happening. How many? And is like, how does that work? Is it, you just sell them a batch? Is there any other back end to it?
There's a lot of back end to it. We just sold some to the 101st Airborne, which if you're in Army aviation, the Gold Book is like the standard for all regular Army units. The Gold Book is a product. It's basically the standard operating procedures of the 101st Airborne. So right now, one of the great things about the Icarus device, and when you're going out there to design something, there's no sense in having a silver bullet that you can't shoot. So having something that's too expensive. So an Icarus device is $1,250, which is at a threshold where like a company or a battalion can buy.
Yeah, totally.
So we have done some contracting with the Army, which is at a larger size. It's one of those things like you get better at it as you do it, and you know that, hey, you're going to need this form or that form. And a lot of what I do is I talk to that instructor out there who's out there flying the line, flying 5 times a week. And they're like, I want this, and being like, they have to go through their unit to figure it out, and hoping to get to not do this forever and have it. But right now, that's how most of them are sold to Army.
I mean, that's a reasonable price point, really. For to me, it's a fairly cheap insurance policy, really, to get better training. My last full-time flying job was air medical, and I talked about this recently with a group of private owners. Every once in a while I'll try to get together with some of my clients that are more on the private side and talk about safety and the importance of continual training and whatnot. And, one of the things that I talked about was there's a push of like from whether it's the OEM itself or even training schools to not, like, if your helicopter has autopilot, to not like put a big emphasis about this idea of using the autopilot for IMC, which I agree. Like, the autopilot shouldn't give you a false sense of reality or safety to it.
Yeah.
However, when I worked at Air Medical, we had an operational control center. We had very heavily trained pilots making good decisions. We had fairly good weather reporting stations, but yet, 8 to 10 people a year went into the clouds in a VFR program. And we had really good quarterly simulator training, and in aircraft training with Foggles, of course. So, we were talking about that because this group is a 66 group that they all own aircraft and they all have autopilot, and they're like, I don't know how to shoot an approach or do anything with that, and it's like, you should probably learn, because I feel like going inadvertent IMC can happen to anyone on any given day, no matter how well you planned. I think it's easy to Monday morning quarterback, oh, he flew into the clouds. I think that it happens more often than not. So, what has been the emphasis with the Icarus device on helping pilots train for that specific emergency? Because it truly is an emergency. In fact, one of the things that you're supposed to do is to declare an emergency. So, what has that kind of focus been like?
So my focus is on getting you training for it like we do engine outs, like autos. You're learning to go fly. What's your instructor going to do? They're going to roll that twist grip off. You're going to go through the muscle memory, and you're going to drill it till you're comfortable executing the steps. So I'm trying to do that with inadvertent IMC, which you can't do that with Foggles. Simulators are great for a lot of different things, but they can't give you the vestibular sensations of actually punching in. And, we spend a lot of time beating people up for, why'd you go inadvertent and Monday morning quarterbacking? Well, I'll tell you, we've had 3 pilots that we know of that have had Icarus training, then gone inadvertent. All 3 of them started off their story by saying, well, ForeFlight was or the field over, 10 miles over was calling VFR. I had VFR. There was a cloud that, the radar couldn't see, or, I've been bombing along in a helicopter and, hey man, like that snowbank is not showing on this radar return, but we're going to have to turn right here because I can't see. So it happens. Let's not pretend that it's not going to happen. Let's train for it if it happens. Now, you hit on autopilots. Autopilots are great, and it's a tool that you should know how to use. And I know, though, because one of the 3 stories, it's a very, very important distinction to make. Is that helicopter IFR rated? And because in one of our instances, the helicopter had an autopilot. The helicopter was not IFR rated, and it had an incredibly capable. We've got these new, synthetic vision, glass cockpits that are fantastic. The problem being, if you go into the soup and start getting moisture, that pedostatic system might not be designed to handle it, and might not be able to handle it. And what's going to happen? You're going to lose your airspeed. That autopilot's going to kick off. You need to have the hand flying skills. And, the helicopter I've been flying for the last 4 years has an advanced 4-axis autopilot. 3-axis autopilot. It's great, but you need to have those foundational flying skills on the other end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, it's funny when you talk about engine failure, right? Like that's what we train for all the time. And then you look at the statistics of like what's causing accidents, very little time it's an engine failure, especially in a turbine aircraft.
There was not to cut you off, there was a company that put out a press release, and they were like, engine outs are the biggest killers in helicopters. And the last year I think I could pull statistics for was 2020, and there was either one and it wasn't fatal, or there was like 21 fatal helicopter accidents that year, and it was either 1 or 0 of them were actually engine failures.
I think it's but in the helicopter world, I understand why we train for it. It's a complex maneuver, so you want to be good at it. I get that.
Oh yeah.
But I think that inadvertent IMC and entry into IMC, whether you have an autopilot or a SAS or you're just hand flying, I think it's very much glazed over. I don't think it's done that well. I've even worked for 135 operators, and like, the inadvertent IMC, it's like a checkbox that we have to do on our check ride and it's BS. Like it doesn't actually help you. Why do you think that is?
I mean, for so many years, there was what are you going to do? A lot of us have been through you just went inadvertent IMC, what do you do? And, depending on what rattle off your steps, or I would, shoot a GPS approach. I would declare an emergency. Okay, you check that box. Let's go do something else to knock off your 135 check ride. And, a big part of what I do now is I'm working with that chief pilot, and they're like, I want to, really upgrade our inadvertent IMC training program. And I'm just the tool maker at that point. But I'll tell you, I work with a lot of people, and they've, they've had a fatal accident, and it's not fun. Nobody wants to go up and not come down safely.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, inadvertent IMC to me seems like much more of a reality on any given helicopter flight. So I think that's what I really like about the Icarus and this idea of being able to enhance that training.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's just something that I feel like it's been glossed over, but maybe it's glossed over because the previous equipment has not been adequate in really giving you good, realistic training. And maybe that's, maybe your device is helping change that narrative that there's a better tool to better equip pilots and operators to be safe if that happens.
Yeah. And, there's too much check in the box training. And if you look at the regulations, you don't need to get any simulated IFR on a private pilot's license like you do on a fixed wing. And that's something on the fixed wing side we're trying to bring to the fixed wing side, which is the FAA put 3 hours of simulated instrument time on the private pilot airplane check ride, not because they're trying to make instrument pilots. It's because they're trying to give people a fighting chance if they find themselves there.
Totally.
And we don't do that on the helicopter side because of this false sense of security of, it's not a false sense of security. That's a bad word for it. But they could just land. And yes,
I follow roads type of, saying with, for helicopters. I think it's just a mindset. I think the helicopter industry has a mindset of not, of being too reliant on this idea that the helicopter can just land.
Yeah.
But it takes away one very big factor, and that's the guy driving the helicopter is usually fighting very deep-seated human condition of, I can do this, or I have to get there,
never felt before,
or I don't want to land because I'm going to get in trouble, whatever it may be, Yeah. And so being able to be prepared would be such a thing. So I think it's our role now, especially with having great devices for better training, to start turning the industry on this idea that it's maybe one of the most important things that we should be training is inadvertent entry into IMC.
Yeah, and when I first started out, Halsey, I was just trying to make the training as realistic as possible because I thought it was all about the monkey skills, and it is. I mean, obviously, the skills count. But what I realized since then is that the weather decision-making aspect on the other side of it, which is a bit more nuanced and kind of harder to measure, is also really important. So getting people in training to say, yeah, I'd turn around right here, or I'd land in that field. Or if you happen to fly an aircraft that can do it, which more and more aircraft are IFR certified and more importantly, IFR capable, I'd just climb up, pick up an IFR approach. It's not a boogeyman to do stuff like that. Whereas, they never had a chance in training to sit there and say, like an auto, I'm going for that field. That's all I want them to do. And I'm pretty agnostic. Occasionally people will ask me, what do you suggest to do if you go inadvertent? And I was like, well, it depends. And you should have a plan. But I'm not here. I'm here to give you the tool to train it, not here to tell you,
how to do it.
Hey, you should just land it. It's a lot different landing an R-22 in a field or a parking lot than it is, a UH-60 Blackhawk or, there's going to be differences, and you should just have a plan and be able, be practiced and versed in executing it. So
100%. Well, I think it's really neat. I think you said that you have a device there.
Yeah.
I want to take a look at it real fast. When we get back from the break, we can play with the Icarus. So here's a word from our sponsor.
Bell is proud to sponsor Vertical Helicasts and their vision to hold meaningful mission, safety, and best practice conversations in the helicopter industry. The lessons learned from these conversations will undoubtedly shape the future of both new and veteran helicopter operators.
Back to the podcast here, and this is kind of neat. Hopefully if you're listening to the podcast right now, pause, get home, get to a safe location when you're not driving, and go to YouTube at the Helicopter Podcast so you can see Nick and I on video here. Nick is actually has the device, and Nick, if, I guess pretend the honest truth is I've actually never seen it in action. So I would love to kind of get the sales pitch of this device.
That elevator pitch, it's something you got to get down if you're trying to. So anyways, Elevator pitch. So two ways to work an Icarus device. There's maybe a couple others. Baseball cap or a helmet. So this is a baseball cap. Three main components. You've got the visor, which is the meat and potatoes of it. It's made out of carbon fiber and polymers versus liquid crystal film. It's super lightweight. The carbon fiber is super strong. Just a PSA. Whenever you're handling one of these, you just want to handle it by anything in the black. You're not going to break carbon fiber. You don't have to see through the carbon fiber. So this clips on the end of the baseball cap. If your instructor's like, hey, I got the Icarus, bring a hat tomorrow, just bring your favorite hat. The fitted ones seem to work better, but also know that you're going to wear a headset over it, so it's going to keep it nice and secure. So we throw that on there, and then gotta make sure you route the cord. But yeah, and this is a right seat for like an EC 145, 135. That's where this one's going. So you can see I got a little bit more over here than I've got over here because, if you're sitting in the right seat, because we're helicopter pilots, we fly in the right seat, you're going to have all of that real estate to block out with a little bit less over here. Second component is the power control unit, which it's about the size of a deck of cards. You're going to want to put this where it makes sense. Make it make sense is one of my favorite sayings. They come with clips, so you can clip it on a seat belt. If you're wearing a flight suit, it's got Velcro on the back. So that's just going to go wherever it makes sense. It's got a button, a black button on here, which is manual control. So you want to be able to access that from the person who's flying. Then we got the third component, which is the app, which is available for iOS and Android. And that allows us to come in here, set some settings. So we're going to do a 5-second transition, which is a pretty good scenario. It's not the instant transition to, hey, you just went into the clouds, but it's pretty close. I can hit that VMC safety button and it's going to go clear. Wow. And one of the great things about the Icarus device is we can go in between. So building that weather decision making, you can slowly drop the visibility on somebody and make them make a decision. So.
Yeah, I think that's the really cool idea as well. Is like, hey, you're starting to enter conditions that you don't really want to be in. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do, right? Yeah. And allow that student to have a minute or so. Maybe that gap narrows down as you get more practice, but to make a decision. And then if they don't make that decision, boom, you're in the clouds.
Yeah, and allowing that development to happen in a safe training environment rather than you're just out there and pushing it. And there's kind of two big inadvertent IMC scenarios. I put them into two buckets. One is that instant, you just flew into a cloud jolt. The other is the frog in a pot of boiling water. You're going from A to B, you're getting closer to B, and you're like, I can still kind of see, and I'm trying to make it, and I'm almost there. And, you end up crashing before you get to the airport. So that's kind of the two big ones that people use to train. And the device is designed to be that tool that the instructor uses to teach whatever they need to teach. So you're not going to take somebody out on their first instrument ride or a new student and give them that hard inadvertent IMC scenario. But if you're doing 135 checks for an air ambulance operator and it's a 10,000 hour, been there, done that pilot. Yeah. Give them the varsity level scenario.
Yeah, no, totally makes sense. What, I guess, like, you have it obviously on your hat now. There's a helmet attachment as well. So if you're wearing a flight helmet, it goes on the flight helmet. Man, it's incredible. It's just, I'm kind of mesmerized by watching it, like just do its thing there. What has been the overall feedback from the industry regarding the Icarus device?
It's been fantastic. And one of the best parts of my job is talking to people and, not just getting them the device, but then hearing feedback afterwards of, oh man, we went up and, I got somebody really feeling it. And obviously getting the feedback that, hey, somebody actually, we had an incident. Vertical did a great spread on us. Shout out to Brent Bundy. Thank you so much, Brent. It was great. But anyways, one of the people that he interviewed he was a chief pilot, and he had one of his newer pilots out there, and their mission was a little bit different that night. They were kind of out of their area, but the weather, he ended up going kind of not inadvertent, kind of advertent IMC, because the weather was coming down. He could not maintain VFR, and Bill had just been training them to hey man, it's a very capable, it's a Bell 429, great helicopter with all the bells and whistles. Just shoot an approach. Don't risk it, and the helicopter spent the night at a different airfield, and that's fine. And they're here to tell the tale. So I can remember our first big break was Metro Aviation. And my friend Matt Johnson, Matt's a great pilot. He's a DPE, but he's also a great advocate for safety in the industry. And he was kind of a cheerleader at the beginning when I didn't have much. It meant the world to me to have somebody with his experience telling me, keep going. But anyways, he took a pilot up, a 10,000 hour, been there, done that pilot, and gave him a varsity level scenario with an Icarus beta tester. And the guy, kind of wrote, the last time I felt like that was, it was like 12 years ago when I went inadvertent, and I wish I had that before I did that. And the guy didn't lose control of the helicopter or anything, but, got a little wonky on it to establish that, go from a VFR to an IFR scan and get the helicopter up and away and on a safe profile. So,
yeah, it's really cool. And I just want to mention, if you're listening, this may seem like a marketing deal. We don't have a financial connection with Icarus. I think that safety is something that we should all be pushing. And so for me, Nick, it's actually funny. It's serendipitous that we just kind of bumped into each other at the show, because I had been thinking for a long time, man, I want to talk to someone about the Icarus. It would be a great deal. I think anytime there's tools within the industry that can help make us safer, especially help us prepare for like the actual things that are killing pilots, which is a lot of inadvertent CFIT. It's been happening forever. It killed Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's like, it's so for me, not that it's a huge platform that I have, but it's neat to be able to have people on that have either, in your case, invented a product that is increasing the safety of helicopters and airplanes, or if it's other people that have implemented SMS systems or whatever it may be. I want to showcase and give as much back possible as we can to safety, because I think it's, we all talk about safety, but the innovation and training is very lackluster. It's very far behind. And I think it's important, if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're at a flight school, you're at an air medical company, you're at a place that's not using a tool like this, you should talk to your training director. You should talk to your chief pilot. Reach out to the guys here at Icarus and request a demo.
I mean, if I send you a demo, I'm sure you can find, if you're spinning blades on a helicopter, you can find the $1,250 to invest in a device and get the training.
It just seems like kind of a no-brainer to me. Like, I feel like every training center, every company, every operator should have as many training tools as possible. And you could spend thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on a nice simulator. Simulators are getting pretty cool. I did some of the VR style simulators at Expo this year. But still, I think the device that I tested in, it was at the Leonardo booth. I think it was like $1 million simulator.
Oh yeah. I've seen the one in Leonardo.
So it's like, $1,250 where you're actually in the aircraft, you're hearing it, you're feeling it. That's the best training that you're ever going to get. And so it seems like a kind of a no-brainer. Are you making these devices still in-house type of deal?
Yes. Our three main components, I have suppliers that I work with, and I just made a couple today, and it's actually a nice, it's like ASMR, like putting them together. I've built enough of them, and it takes about 15 minutes to put a visor together and all that stuff. And I do want to say, because you mentioned Stevie, I'm from Austin, Texas, because my dad went to see a Stevie Ray Vaughan concert at the Continental Club in Austin. And I grew up with, that's why my parents moved to Madison. Austin was a great time in the 80s, but I grew up with him telling me, he's like, Stevie had just gotten clean. Stevie Ray Vaughan was addicted to heroin for a long time. And then he died in Alpine Valley, which I just moved from Wisconsin. I've flown over Alpine Valley a couple times, many a times. I've flown over wearing an Icarus device for testing. So, you look at the Stevie accident, and the industry has changed a lot from kind of the Vietnam era of just make it happen and just shut up and do it, which is what happened in that accident. But
well, and think about the most public helicopter incident, most likely that will occur in our lifetime, the Titanic of all helicopter accidents, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, whenever it was, with Kobe.
Yeah.
Inadvertent entry, a long chain of decisions that led to that, being in a fully equipped, helicopter that could deal with it. But it came down to training and recency, and not being comfortable. The easiest thing to do is either land or actually just confess, climb up and get out of it, or get in it in some cases. And so it's neat that there's an Icarus device or a device like the Icarus that can help. Because again, we got to train everything. Train your auto rotations and your what are you going to do with this light and what are you going to do with that light? What are you going to do in this situation? But I really hope if you're listening to this podcast that if you're learning how to fly and you don't think that your school is pushing inadvertent IMC, it's something that's foreign to you, because it was very foreign to me until I got to air medical, where it was kind of a higher on the priority list of actually teaching it. Shout out to Air Evac where I worked. They put a huge emphasis on inadvertent IMC and surviving it, thriving in it. Not that you want to get into it, but if you're going to get into it, I want to be like, very, very well prepared.
Yeah.
What, so I saw you at the expo. I think you were at the Helicopter Safety Institute booth. Is there a relationship that you have with Randy and Helicopter Safety Institute?
Absolutely. So I've got three partners. I'm the one that does this full time, and my three partners are kind of like the partners and advisors, and kind of helping me guide and mentor me through the industry. And Randy is the man when it comes to the civilian helicopter industry. So I've been actually back and forth to Fort Worth up there, getting my CFI with Randy and his folks, and flew his 206 out, which was a fun time. Randy, I can't speak enough. Everybody knows. He's chairman of the board for HAI. He's a DPE, and when you ask him questions about like FARs, he's kind of like a preacher, and like he's spitting off Bible verses. So Randy's really the man when it comes to it, and he's also, he's on the cutting edge of doing some really cool stuff in the industry to make the industry better. Not just with Icarus, obviously, but he's doing stuff with getting people training and checking for 135 certs, which is I've never run a 135 operation, but I can imagine that's a huge burden to make sure that you're compliant and proficient to get onto kind of a training kick. Like, I always think about it like there's three things. Like, are you proficient? Yes or no? Are you current? Yes or no? And then are you like certified to do it? Do you have an instrument rating? Is the helicopter instrument certified? What really matters is, are you proficient? But making sure that you're compliant. So he's got a great team. When I first met Randy, I think he had like 4 or 5 helicopters, and he's got a lot more now. So he's doing Navy training. He's all the law enforcement out there, and Randy's
he's salt of the earth type of guy. I don't have I don't know him that well, but I've worked with him once on a project, and it was like, that was all I had to see. It was brief, but it was the way that he handled it was very awesome. I got to run into him at HI as well, at the Hilton or Marriott, one of those, and chat it for a while. I want to podcast with Randy. I actually want to go down to the Institute there and maybe do like a vlog or some in-person content, because again, I want to showcase and highlight individuals that are excelling in helping make the industry safer. You said that you were sending out some devices. Where are you sending these devices off today?
I'm really excited. one of these is going to actually be used in Antarctica. So I'm
Very
not sure
cool.
exactly when this will come out, but we're about to put out. We have finally gotten all 7 continents.
Nice. Congratulations. Your
Through
episode will
Australia.
come out like mid-April. So,
Okay. Yeah,
uh,
it'll probably be around that time. And then the other one's going to Canada. If you read the news, there's a lot. The Canadian bodies that be up there, they had a couple accidents, and I've been really impressed at how Canadian operators just in the last 6 months have really been adopting the device. And because they're Canadians, they're all super great to work with, which I end up spending a lot of time
buddy. Yeah.
on the nuts and bolts of I know you want it, but got to make sure the invoicing and all that stuff. And so yeah, the other one is going to a Canadian operator, and then I send a decent amount of demos out. Like I said, a lot of the time it's hey, I'm the chief pilot, but I've got to convince my operations manager. We're doing our annual training. Can you send a device out? Absolutely. Just let me know. We'll make it happen.
And is that like a risk-free demo? Like
Oh,
they
yeah.
can reach out. I mean, these guys, if you're listening, this is a no-brainer. Get in contact with Nick. Again, I don't have any skin in the game other than wanting to help make the industry safer.
Yeah.
He's willing to send out demos. It's such a light investment. How durable has there been? I guess they've been out in the world now for 3 years.
Yeah.
Are they holding up to the rigors of flight training?
Yeah, and they do come with a 3-year warranty. The most common thing is the film, so that's why I'm trying to, and especially at the beginning, if you were breaking an Icarus device, it wasn't your fault; it was my fault. I have a duty to I gave you the tool. How do I tell people about it? One thing I stress is just handle it by the carbon fiber. We did just recently switch. We've got more durable film. As you can imagine, there's kind of some production constraints on something that needs to be carry electric current so that you can see through it, and having multiple layers, so being durable. I get one back once every couple weeks. It takes, like I said, it takes 15 minutes, switch the film out, send it back to you. And it is getting more durable. They come in hard cases. If you handle it with a general amount of care, you'll be good to go. And I don't want anybody to not get good training because they're too afraid of breaking it. Like I said, there's a warranty for a reason. It's not
That's
that
awesome. And I don't know if it's proprietary, so you don't have to answer, but how many devices are in the world now?
Probably just over 500. I need to do a final count.
It's incredible.
Yeah, about 20% of those are to the Army. Probably another good amount to the air ambulance industry. By number of customers, law enforcement's been one of is probably our best segment. Just because if you think about it, they've got the blade time to do the training. There's been enough. They know that they need to get the good training. So work with a lot of police officers and sheriffs and stuff like that. And then a lot of schools in the helicopter world. Our big. Last summer, we got all UND students, Embry-Riddle students, SUU, so getting out there and getting people, which is what I'm really excited about, is these new pilots that are coming to the industry, and they haven't known hoods or foggles.
Yeah, I was back in my day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Nick, congratulations, man. Bringing an idea to market and executing and being successful is not an easy feat, and you do it with a personality that's infectious and fun to be around, and you can tell that you're certainly passionate about it. So again, if you're listening to this podcast today and you're not familiar with Icarus, look it up. I'm guessing website Icarus.
IcarusDevices.com is our website. We're on all the social medias, come stop on by.
Do your research. Reach out to Nick. If you connect, reach out to me. I can connect you with Nick as well. Whatever's easy. It's kind of a no-brainer. It's super cool. I'm hoping for just grand success and more success than you've already had. Obviously, not for the monetary side of it, but truly for a training tool that could really help increase, or not really help, will help increase safety and put greater emphasis. Again, if you're training and your instructor or your program isn't putting emphasis on an inadvertent IMC because you're a helicopter, it's BS. You got to do it. It's what kills people. I can't say it loud and hard enough. That's something that will continue to kill people until we have a shift. And so, Nick, thank you for coming and chatting with me today. For my guests, or excuse me, for my listeners, thank you, of course, for listening to the Helicopter Podcast. Check out this video on our YouTube channel, the Helicopter Podcast, because we did do a little demo there, or Nick did. So you're going to want to check that out. Make sure that you follow us on social media as well, the Helicopter Podcast on all platforms. Thank you for listening. And Nick, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
So fun. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Hey, podcast listeners. My name is Halsey Schider, and I'm the principal broker and owner of Helicopter. Helicopter is a new age, data-driven, helicopter-specific sales brokerage, bringing helicopter listings to new heights. At Helicopter, we utilize digital positioning, paid advertising, and our large network of industry professionals to move your helicopter quickly and efficiently. Unsure the value of your helicopter? Lucky for you, Helicopter offers a complimentary market evaluation. All you have to do is contact the team today. Are you ready to take your helicopter listing from Mayday to payday? Easy. Fill out the contact information below, and a Helicopter pilot agent will reach out shortly. Helicopter. List it, sell it, done.